The storm on the Sea of Galilee is not any old storm. So in verse 24, you see the word here, but in Greek, it literally means earthquake.
They say that they had legion. Now, in Roman times, a legion is from 6,000 to 7,000 soldiers. So when demonic men said that they had legion, perhaps one or both of them had 6,000 to 7,000 demons inside them. So I'm going to react to Nate Sala. He has a YouTube channel called Every Word. He did a YouTube video called The Hidden Truth Behind Jesus and the Legion of Demons. It's actually a very good video. I got some main points, what he was talking about. So I'm going to add some of my points to it. It's very interesting, something that it's a little bit, it's actually a different way of looking at the three events of Jesus calming the storm, the demon legion, and after when Jesus walks on water. So stay tuned.
When he got into the boat, his disciples followed him, and behold, there arose a great storm on the sea, so that the boat was being swamped by the waves, but he was asleep. And they went and woke him, saying, "Save us, Lord, we are perishing." And he said to them, "Why are you afraid, O you of little faith?" Then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the men marveled, saying, "What sort of man is this, that even winds and sea obey him?" And when he came to the other side, to the country of the Gadarenes, 2 demon-possessed men met him, coming out of the tombs, so fierce that no one could pass that way. And behold, they cried out, "What have you to do with us, O Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" Now a herd of many pigs was feeding at some distance from them, and the demons begged him, saying, "If you cast us out, send us away into the herd of pigs." And he said to them, "Go." So they came out and went into the pigs, and behold, the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the waters.
There was a great storm, a great tempest, and the disciples were on the boat. They were threatened by this storm and the wind, but Jesus was asleep, calm in the backside of the boat. Now they woke him up. Now what's so interesting about this is that Jesus just doesn't I know the title many times when we read it into the biblical text, it says Jesus calms the storm, but the biblical text doesn't say that he calms the storm, he rebukes the storm. Like if he's going to rebuke a demon, rebuke a person, he commands the storm, doing some type of exorcising the storm. Like the storm, the tempest was mad. They were trying, the storm was alive, trying to kill Jesus, kill the disciples, to drown them. But Jesus rebukes. It's almost like the storm, this tempest had a demonic entity, right? So Jesus rebukes the storm. Interesting.
Pay attention to the geography of this passage. All right, geography is important. You remember this from the previous episode? Okay, so the question is, where is Jesus and his disciples when all of this action is taking place, right? So if you go down here to verse 28, and it says that Jesus traveled across the Sea of Galilee and came to the other side. That's what it is right here in verse 28. To the country of the Gadarenes. Well, then we need to reverse that and figure out where he was, right? That means Jesus must have originally been on the west bank of the Sea of Galilee. Okay? Pop quiz. What's on the east side of the Sea of Galilee? Again, we noted this back at the end of Matthew chapter 4. I pulled up a map for you, okay? You remember this? Geography is important. The authors don't mention geography for no reason. It has a purpose. If we know our geography, as well as the spiritual significance of these locations, it's going to make perfect sense why a storm arises on the Sea of Galilee in the first place.
Now, once Jesus arrived to the land of the Gadarenes, which is on the east side of Galilee, Now, the land of the Gadarenes, which is in the east side, this is Gentile land. This is a land on the east side that the Jews were not supposed to go, right? This was occupied by demonic forces, spiritual entities that had control over these lands, spiritual entities that had control over these territories, right? And the people there, they were manipulated by satanic forces. Now, once Jesus arrived to the land of the Gadarenes, right, to that land, he is confronted by two demonic possessed men. Now, when they start talking to Jesus, they say that they had legion. Now, in Roman times, a legion is from 6,000 to 7,000 soldiers. So when demonic men said that they had legion, perhaps one or both of them had 6,000 to 7,000 demons inside them. The Jews saw the Gentiles as pigs, as unclean from because they are the chosen people of God. Any other people that is not Jewish were unclean. So when Jesus rebukes the demons, all 6,000 to 7,000 of them, they were cast into pigs. So the spirits go into the pigs, and then the pigs cannot control all these 6,000 to 7,000 demons, and they go back into the sea. Now that is interesting. Before all this, Jesus was on the boat heading towards the east side where they were at in the Gadarenes. He rebukes the storm, demonic entities trying to kill Jesus, kill the disciples. They arrive on land. Jesus is confronted with 6,000 to 7,000 demons, and he casts them back into the sea where they belong.
Let's talk a little bit about the storm for a moment. The storm on the Sea of Galilee is not any old storm. So in verse 24, you see the word here, but in Greek, it literally means earthquake. So the word here is seismos, right? By the way, there are a couple of other mentions of seismos. So when Jesus dies on the cross, there is a great seismos that takes place. That's in Matthew 27, right? When Jesus resurrects and an angel of God rolls the stone of his tomb away, there is a great seismos, right? That's Matthew 28. There's something about this earthquake, this seismos, that suggests that it's spiritual in nature. As a matter of fact, Jesus rebukes the wind and the sea. So look again, verse 26, right? He rose and rebuked the winds and the seas. But Jesus does this in the same way that he rebukes unclean spirits in people.
That's very interesting what Nate says here, but he's right. It means seismos. It kind of leads you to think that while Jesus was with his disciples on the boat, this tempest, right? The storm, this great storm is started to brew, and underneath the water, the land, there was an earthquake. Something happened with this earthquake. It opened up, and perhaps it released these demonic entities, perhaps legion, right? But these demons were released, or maybe this chaos, this Leviathan of old, right, was released, and it caused this storm, this tempest. It was so great that the disciples were afraid. Now, the disciples, they were seasoned fishermen. They knew what it was to be fishing when there's a storm, but they were afraid. So why were they afraid of a storm if most likely they perhaps went through many storms in the past, but this one was totally different. This one was huge. It released something from the demonic ground underneath the Sea of Galilee, and it wanted to kill Jesus. It wanted to drown the disciples.
Perhaps it would help to note how the Jews saw the Sea of Galilee and the sea in general. Okay. They saw this sea. Now, hear me now. They saw this sea as being similar to the watery chaos of Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. Okay? Because of this connection, right? So go back to Genesis chapter 1, verse 2 for a moment with me. Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, the earth was without form and void. Darkness was over the face of the deep, right? And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Okay? They make this connection. And because of this connection and others, Jews would often refer to the sea as the abyss, the gateway to the underworld, where evil spirits dwelled. That's probably why this particular seismos was so frightening to the disciples. Okay? But it also helps to explain what happens next with the demon-possessed men. In this story of the demon-possessed men, notice where specifically these two are coming from. Okay? They're coming out of the tombs, verse 28. So 2 demon-possessed men met him coming out of the tombs, so fierce that no one could pass that way. So we got to remember, right? In ancient Jewish tradition, particularly Second Temple Judaism, demons were referred to as unclean spirits. Okay? Even the New Testament refers to demons in this particular way as well. You can look at this. We'll see this again a little bit later in Matthew 10, but you can see this in Mark chapter 1. You can see this in Luke chapter 4, right? Unclean spirits. The reason they were considered unclean is because many Jews understood these spirits to come from the realm of the dead.
So Nate Sala talks about unclean spirits. So where do unclean spirits come from? What are unclean spirits? An unclean spirit is a spirit that came from the offspring of human women and fallen angels. And the word unclean, why it's mentioned unclean, is because when you have a mixture of 2 different things that are not alike, okay? So because it's human and fallen angel and angels, in Genesis 6, it says that they came together, the fallen angels took human women and they produced Nephilim. They produced giants. And in Genesis 6, God later on and during the flood, he destroys all flesh, and the Nephilim passed away. But their spirits were still roaming the earth. Now, because their spirits were roaming around the earth, these spirits, because they were once embodied, they love to embody humans. Thus, the demon possession. They love to abide in humans. They lust for the feeling of embodiment, of lust, of thinking, of touching, and having that what they had in the past. Once they embody a human, they could have something like what they once had. These unclean spirits love to embody humans because they have a taste of what they had way back then, almost 6,000 years ago.
But also take note of specifically where the demons begged Jesus not to send them. So you have to take a look at the parallel account in Luke chapter 8. They begged Jesus not to send them into the abyss, presumably back into the abyss where they came from, right? And so, okay, now we start to see the connection to what just happened in the great seismos on the Sea of Galilee. Both of these events are part of a bigger story.
Now, let's look at the sequence of events. First, Jesus boards a boat. He's on the west side of Galilee, his home territory, Jewish territory. They board a boat. Jesus falls asleep. A tempest arises. A great storm, seismos. The sea opens up. The earth underneath it opens up and releases Leviathan, chaos, demons. Jesus and the disciples are now being threatened for their lives. They wake up Jesus. Jesus rebukes the sea, rebukes the demonic entity that was wanting to kill them. the sea is calm. They hit land to the land of the Gadarenes, Gentile land, territorial land of the ungodly. The demonic entities belong on that side, the land of the Bashan, right? Jesus, once he hits land, he's confronted by two demon men. It says the 6,000 to 7,000 demons were in them. Jesus rebukes them. He casts those demons into pigs. The pigs go back into the Sea of Galilee. A couple days later, Jesus sends out his disciples on a boat to head back home to the west side of the Galilee, right? There is a storm again. Perhaps these are those demons that Jesus cast back to the sea, back to the abyss. They're angry, right? Because they were embodied in these two human beings. Now they're let loose. They're wanting to go back. Now they are angry at Jesus, at the disciples. They're wanting to drown the disciples. But the disciples see Jesus walking on water. At first they thought it was a ghost, but it was Jesus. Now, what does this tell us? Jesus rebukes the sea, calms it at first. Then he goes out into the land and he rebukes the demons. And they're back into the abyss, back to the sea. Later on, a couple of days, Jesus walks on water over the sea, on top of the sea, over the demons. But what's so strange about this, what's so wonderful about this is that Peter asked Jesus, if it is you, let me come to you. Let me walk on the water. So Peter walks on the water. And Jesus tells Peter, come. I want you to walk over these demons, over the abyss, over Leviathan, over these chaotic waters. So Peter walks over on top of the demons also. So with Jesus' help, we are no longer controlled over demonic entities. We have the power within us through Jesus Christ to go to make demons flee, to walk on top of these demonic entities in Jesus' name. Now, of course, the story says that Peter, because of his flesh, he looks towards the sides. Each side, he sees the waves, he sees the demons, he sees all the ruckus, and he falls, right? Because of his lack of faith. But this is an amazing message that Jesus gives us the authority through him to walk over demonic entities, to cast out demons. We are no longer controlled by demons, by evil spirits, our past, our haunting emotions. It's all under our feet over the chaotic waters.